Picking up where we left off before Mike Scott's newscast about this Ask Amy letter writer.
Yes.
Signed his mom, who signed herself angry in Philadelphia. Is there any way to be other way to be in Philadelphia? Anyway, she's the mom who was angry at her brother for not giving her daughter $1,000 for her wedding, despite the fact her brother was not invited to the wedding, and they told him he was not going to be invited because he's a conservative and support candidates they abhor. But she still wants $1,000.
Pound sand, too bad.
Daughter. By the way,
you always say, "Oh, so sad, too bad." Or
by the way,
yes,
and "Crying Me a River" and all of those other aphorisms. But again, think about the kind of guy that just got married to this family.
Okay, I feel just get a divorce now or have an open marriage like the De Blasios are having.
But I mean, and the YDP is single, and maybe why Bill De Blasio is single, although his wife was living as a lesbian before she met him.
How did he think it would end?
All very confusing.
If she was a lesbian when they
met. He thought it would end when he ran for president, which is how it ended. But anyway,
and then
these male impersonators. That's who women like these days, which is a perfect segue to our next guest. He's probably a vegan. Teresa Mull is the assistant editor at Spectator World. She has a new book, Woke Proof Your Life, a handbook on escaping modern political madness and shielding yourself and your family by living a more self-sufficient, fulfilling life. It's available August 15th in all the usual places. Like, for example, Uncle Dave. In this case, Uncle Dave just cut Sis and Sis's family out of your life. That would be a how to woke proof your life. Maybe. It would be for me. Teresa Mull, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So before we even get to how woke proofing your life, I mean, this sort of dovetails nicely, but I like this piece that you wrote about vegans, because getting vegans out of your life, at least the ones that are performative, it's not dietary, and they're ostentatious about it, that's another way it would seem to me to woke proof your life.
Absolutely, that would be a good place to start. Yeah, the thing about a lot of woke people is that they are doing it for show, for attention, for reparations, as your example just illustrated, doing it for $1,000 for your wedding, without even inviting the person. So it's all about me. It's a very self-centered mindset, and for all the care they purport to have for minorities and people of different identities, quote unquote, it really comes down to them and how it benefits them at the end of the day.
Well, tell us about celebrity chef John Mountain and how he made headlines.
Yeah, he put on, I think it was Instagram, that he's banning vegans from his restaurant because due to mental health reasons. I guess a customer had reached out to him and said, "Do you have any plant-based options?" And he said, "I don't, but I can accommodate you. Let me know when you're coming to the restaurant." And I guess he got really busy catering or something and he forgot. And this person wrote a really nasty review and he just said, "I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Vegans are driving me insane. You're no longer welcome here."
Yeah,
I think we can all relate to that.
Well, I mean, I go the other way just to make a point. I have a tomahawk steak for every meal, and I'm ostentatious about it just to send the message back across the bow. But exactly. But I mean, I love the piece because it also goes through all the health problems associated with veganism. You do in this too. That but even beyond that. The point of they're so desirous to eat what omnivores eat that everything has to be, it tastes like chicken, it tastes like a hamburger, but it's synthetic meat or whatever. They're always trying to eat meat without eating meat.
Yeah, it's really creepy. I linked to a product that you can buy that's plant-based, but it looks exactly like ground beef, like right down to the color is the color of ground beef. It even has little white specks in it that mimics fat. It comes in a container that looks like a ground beef container. It's like you are so repulsed by the idea of eating an animal, but you're going to go to all these lengths to make what your non-animal product look and feel like an animal. Like it is totally bizarre to me.
Yeah, it's
Which
'cause
again explains,
yeah.
they are crazy people if you're not eating meat, I think.
There you go. Now, it's important to get the definitions out front here. Wokeness, a definition of wokeness that you provided, a socio-political ideology characterized by the manipulation of noble goals by tyrannical left-wing zealots for the purpose of controlling and destroying American society. That's a tidy little definition. I like that. So, how do we insulate ourselves from people who are maniacally going around? Uh, Left-wing zealots as they are for the purpose of controlling and destroying American society. We can't just ignore them, can we?
Well, yes and no. A lot of, as these illustrations that we've spoken about here show, is that a lot of what these people are doing is to get attention. So if I write in the book that wokeness lives and dies online. Wokeness didn't really exist prior to COVID, whenever everybody was stuck at home on their screens, and a lot of hashtags started to appear, a lot of different identities, all these things kind of came to a head whenever, and also at the same time, a lot of cell phone addiction came to be. So if you go out into the real world and you're interacting with your neighbors, you're having a hobby, you're gardening, you're going down to the local diner, having a cup of coffee with your friends in the morning, basically you're living as we did 3, 5, 10 years ago, without so much social media and so much 24-hour doomsday news cycle, fear-mongering media. If you step away from that, you find that wokeness doesn't really exist. It's a minority of people. They're very loud. They're very well funded, but they're basically inventing all of these outrages and these discriminations, quote unquote. So that's the first thing I tell people to do. Limit your technology, your online time, your screen time. Make sure that technology is a resource, not a recourse. Every time you have a spare second, don't turn to your phone and let it manipulate your mood and your mind, and live in the real world. Get a hobby, go outside, make new friends. Be a little more like the Waltons and a little less like the crazy vegans harassing everyone.
So you're saying wokeness is dependent on screen time?
Yes.
Well, in part. I mean, in part. The problem, of course, is that because we have allowed them to wrest control of all of our cultural and civic institutions, they can pretty much ignore conservatives, but we can't really ignore them because they impose themselves on us in some form or fashion.
Right. Yeah, so I advocate for kind of building a parallel alternative life to this wokeness that's going on at our universities, at our public schools, at certain corporations, things like that, to be a conscientious consumer. So there are conservative colleges that exist. Choose those. You can homeschool your kids. You can send your kids to private school in many cases. You can, at least if public school you feel is your only option, there are ways that you can ensure that your child is being educated at home, being taught, every time they come home from school, say, what did you learn today? And then kind of re-educate them if you have to. I go through all these steps to make sure that it can feel a little bit like political whack-a-mole, I guess, with the wokeness rearing its head here and there and everywhere. But if you're leading a conscientious lifestyle and you're just safeguarding your senses, making sure that what you consume mentally, spiritually, all these things, that you can really build a lifestyle that's counter to the narrative that they want us to adopt.
Well, and it doesn't need to be monastic or nomadic either. I mean, one of the points that you make, which we should remind ourselves of often, is the, platoons of democracy. Associate with people who share your values, find groups, organizations in which you can devote your time and energy that, reinforce the kind of life that you seek to live.
Right, and it's really not as difficult as one might think if you just watch the news or if you go on TikTok for more than 1 second. You would think that everybody in the world has purple hair and is bisexual and identifies as a cloud or whatever it is, but as I was writing this book, I would reach out to one person and they say, oh, let me put you in touch with my friend, or I know a guy who does this, and then it really snowballed, and once you start surrounding yourself with other virtuous people, if you move somewhere that has more of a conservative values, it's pretty easy. And God, I think if you really want to do His will and you feel called to doing something outside of our modern culture, that He will help you do that. And that's definitely what I found.
You know what
Well,
you do? I mean, you put together a little bit of scratch.
Mhm.
Okay, so it may take a little bit of time, but put together a little scratch, especially earlier. It's a lot cheaper, younger. You join a golf club.
Oh boy.
I mean, I'm telling you, I hate to, this is my sport of choice, so I hate to be a shameless advocate, but even golf clubs in, bastions of left-wing lunacy, like, say, Oak Park
Chicago.
River Forest. Well, Oak
Oh,
Park River Forest,
okay.
Oak Park Country Club. But so you go. I mean, if you there are other institutions, and there's not a multi-$1,000 downstroke and monthly dues and all that stuff. I get it, but you want to be around like-minded people, doing an activity, being outside, combining a lot of the things that you just said, Teresa. Playing golf or being at a golf club, that there's just no time, and there's a lot of opposition if you run around with your hair on fire, like somebody you would see on MSNBC. It's just there's no community there for you.
Right. And I point out in the book that if you are joining a golf club or a sportsman's club, or you're doing something of that nature, most of the people that you're going to be interacting with are there to do that thing. They're there because they like golf, or they like a gardening club, or whatever it is. They're there for that thing. They're not there to talk about the politics of the day necessarily. It might come up, but it's a way, even if the other person is a little more liberal than you or a little more woke in their home life, you're there to commune with them and talk about something that you both enjoy and that you have in common. And that's kind of a way that we can kind of, cool things down and be like, yes, maybe we disagree on some things, but let's play golf, let's talk about the beautiful weather, or, how much we enjoy our Arnold Palmer's or something, like that. It's really a way to
John Daly.
unite people outside of all the anchors.
Yeah, John
Yes.
Daly is more
So-
like, but also too, if you have a leftist in the group in front of you, then you hit into them.
Exactly, and you don't yell for. All right, so what wokeness made Bud Light go broke? I mean, their sales have dropped 28% weeks before Independence Day. Is this a way of fighting back on a cultural level?
Absolutely, and that's something that I tell people a lot. Is it's very encouraging. As I say a lot, it can feel like you're the only one. It can feel like the whole world is going mad and everybody's woke and you're just like on this island all alone. But things like what happened with Bud Light show that the American people are not ready for this. They don't want to be woke, and they certainly don't want corporations to be forcing radical political ideologies on them. We've seen that happen with Target. And there's plenty of polls out there that show the majority of Americans, even if they do tend to be a little liberal, they don't want politics entering into their shopping experience. Part of my inspiration for writing this book was that I bought my favorite shampoo. I took it home. I looked down, and it has a rainbow flag on it. And I'm like, why? Why can't I just buy a shampoo without supporting something? What does my shampoo have to do with the LGBT lifestyle? And most Americans feel that way. So as we unite and we push back and we let these corporations and our lawmakers know that we're not okay with this, we can begin to take back our country. We just have to be loud and united and cheerful about it.
She is Teresa Mull, assistant editor at Spectator World, the cheerful author of the new book, Woke Proof Your Life, a handbook on escaping modern political madness and shielding yourself and your family by living a more self-sufficient, fulfilling life. Woke Proof Your Life. Woke Proof Your Life by Teresa Mull. Teresa, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
According to the U.S. debt clock, in the time you hear this commercial, our nation's debt will go up by $1.5 million. That's more than $2 billion a day. Right now, our debt is over $31 trillion and climbing